Welcome to episode 148 of Drew's Sports Crew here on this Sunday night. And what a win for the Green Bay Packers. Wow. Playoff bound. Crazy season here for Green Bay. Look, I want to be discussing that, of course, in this episode, but also we got to talk about the Milwaukee Bucks. Maybe more on a lesser note. I shouldn't be that enthusiastic on that after another frustrating loss. This time comes to the hands of the Houston. Why am I going to say Houston Texans? The Rockets, of course. Thinking about the Texans after, wow, like a phenomenal win for them against the Colts, but nonetheless, right? NFL playoffs are basically here, right? I mean, we have the AFC East title game essentially tonight here coming up, but look, it's a good time of year for football, especially just the games, right? It's been a competitive week 18 nonetheless. Going with it, right? The Packers ending the Seattle Seahawks season, but then also the New Orleans Saints season with that 17-9 win. I'll talk more through like the top stats, right? Assuming you all watched the game, going through kind of what that went through, and it was a fire like. The offense was on fire essentially, even though with only 17 points. There was definitely like in terms of yardage, it was just a great game, and that's what you want to see if you're Green Bay. Obviously, the points didn't show that, but looking at it, that's what it was. And going through, of course, scheduling. So you're hearing me tonight, again for episode of Drew Sports Crew. But then Wednesday, probably around 5:30 p.m., you can hear Bernie Van Hoovel, Jared Vleski, myself, Drew Skyberg for an episode of Journey to Million playoff edition. And this is always a lot of fun. We get to talk through playoffs. We'll talk through our top teams, what we think is going to go down in wild card weekend. But then also we'll go through some immaculate grids, right? Got to get through. Got to play some games in there as well. But it'll be a fun week and going through. So there's playoff games Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. There's one Monday, so that'll be good. And that's what we'll be looking at this week. And of course, at Drew Sports Group, you want to see some great content. Put out Packers player of the game. It was Jordan Love, in case you were wondering, and rightfully so after his performance. 316 passing yards, eclipsed over 4,000 passing yards on the season. 4,159, I think it was. I believe, and we saw that, and otherwise it was just it had to be Jordan Love. Was what I felt. Aaron Jones and Jaden Reed both put up great performances, but things like that stood out. And other content includes, of course, Bucks. The same thing for the Bucks. Bucks Player of the Week. Giannis took home that award this week, but then also NBA Power Rankings, where we see Milwaukee. I had it too. Little preview. I'm going to be dropping them a spot or two on Tuesday's power ranking, just based on how they've performed. And then also I do some NFL team rankings, do fun things with that, and then just overall wide variety of Wisconsin sports content, especially. So go check that out at Drew Sports Crew on TikTok, right? Drew Sports Crew, YouTube, Facebook, also at Drew Sports Crew on Instagram. So that's what I got here for announcements. And let's get into here again that game we were talking about. Of course, the thrilling 8-point win over the Bears. Felt like it should have been a 14-point win. It felt like they were up. It was a two-score game. And the Packers were mostly favored. Favored to win throughout the game. There was a little bit right when the Bears got that field goal, it was like 56% or so is what ESPN's showing. That's fine. I guess. But again, Packers were in control. As the game moved forward, their probability basically just slowly increased. Packers only did not lead after that first drive by Chicago. At the 7:20 mark in the second, when they got that touchdown, Packers led the rest of the way essentially. So it was like, okay, it was good to see that. And Dontavian Wicks was your guy with 2 touchdowns. Not Jaden Reed in this one. No touchdowns from him. Good to see. Wicks getting back involved after being healthy again. He got hurt again in Carolina. That was something we were monitoring. And he's all good to go, which is what we love to hear. And he was 6 for 61, had 7 targets on the day. This is the balanced target share that we were talking about start of the year. I mean, this was a theme I kept hitting on and on. It was This Packers team needs a balanced target share, needs Aaron Jones involved in terms of targets, and we needed him to carry that nice workload. And this is what I was envisioning at the start of the year. Okay, I was not envisioning the personnel that did it. Nobody was. That'd be insane. I was not thinking Bo Melton, Dontavian Wicks were going to be your number 2 and 3 receivers respectively in a game to clinch the playoffs, clinch a playoff spot. Did not think that. I was thinking, right, Christian Watson, as we all were, and I honestly used logs from like limiteds throughout the week. I thought he was going to play today, at least in some sort, and unfortunately, just can't get him out there. So we saw Reed take the way. Only 4 targets though, but 4 receptions, 112 yards after that big 59-yard one. That is how he is your receiving yard leader for this game here with 112. And then Bo Melton with 62, who's really came on with 7 targets. Wicks with 7 targets, 6 for 60 or 7, 6 for 61 with 2 touchdowns on the day. Great game for him. And then Tucker Kraft, how about it? I mean, and this is one game back. There's like, I know there's going to be people in fantasy football, especially on like the dynasty side, who are going to say Kraft, Kraft over Musgrave. This game, he's overtaking the role, and it's like, okay, Musgrave's coming back from the IR after a kidney injury, and look, Musgrave's a better talent. There's no like that. That's why the draft was the way it was, and I know we can't just go back to the draft because right, Bryce Young went over Stroud and such, but Musgrave is definitely the better passing threat. But Kraft as a blocker is no joke, and I think that's kind of what's going to keep him on the field, and that's what we're seeing. And he made some really nice plays. He had one play to seal it where he just kind of found the soft spot in zone, and like Kraft's a very nice player. And I personally like Kraft more than Musgrave for this Packers team, but like there's no denying the talent that Luke Musgrave has, and pass catching or not, and just overall, like it's good to have 2 very talented tight ends nonetheless. And that's what you saw the Packers day. And then Romeo Doubs had that 1 target in the end zone, unfortunate, and he was unable to return there with that. So I'm just monitoring his status as well, because he's another guy who in this balanced receiving core you need. So that's what we're looking at. And Jordan Love with a rare turnover mistake over these last at least 6-7 games, right? He fumbled there while trying to scramble for the first down. He had it, and then, it just unfortunate there. Jaquan Brisker ended up, or I think it was Brisker, or Brisker recovered it. Ended up getting like poked loose though by someone's helmet. So it was kind of just a fluke. Out 5 performance here for Joe Barry's defense. Quay Walker had a sack, Carl Brooks, Lucas Van Ness, Kenny Clark, and then Devontae Wyatt in there with all 5 of those having sacks. It was a big day. Tackles for loss too. Carl Brooks had 2 big ones in there. Just some really nice plays by a lot of guys on this defense. I'd say a lot of guys you didn't think you're gonna hear their names at the end of the year end up stepping up. Especially like Carrington Valentine, a guy like him, definitely a name that you wouldn't have thought would have been needed in this role, and showed up nicely. But then also mentioned Carl Brooks was a guy too who had a big game today, and honestly was one of the top players on the defense today. I think giving him some credit after how he performed, just really important is what is, and it was a performance this defense needed nonetheless. So good to see that. Anders Carlson did miss that field goal to start, and people were getting a little worried, as I was too, rightfully so, after a rough year for Carlson. Made 2 extra points, made both of them, and made the other field goal later there in the game. It's just, what's next here for Green Bay is the question that people ask, and the answer is a road trip to Dallas to face Mike McCarthy and the Dallas Cowboys. So it'll be a good one. They are the 2 seed then, is where Dallas lands, and they dominated this week. Like flat out dominated the Commanders. So that's what they're coming into. It's gonna be an uphill performance. We don't have any line yet in terms of what the projected spread is gonna be on this one. I envision Cowboys are going to be probably 5-point favorites is my guess, 5.5 maybe. Just based on them being home, how they've performed at home this year, dominating a lot of squads. Um, Kind of looking though at where they've slipped up. Uh, like there's let's not forget that Dallas lost to Arizona this year with Josh Dobbs, right? I mean, they've lost games. They lost 28-16 in that one. They lost to San Francisco 42-10. They lost to Philadelphia 30 or 28-23 earlier, and then they lost back-to-back ones against Buffalo and Miami. Right, that game was in Buffalo and at Miami. But the thing that all those games had in common, they're all on the road, is where we get interesting. And you could say they could have had one loss against Detroit last week after that whole thing at the end of the game with a 2-point conversion. But point is, they've been a tough team at home, and where they stand out is CeeDee Lamb, of course, who again against Detroit had 227-yard game in terms of receiving yards. Dak Prescott, who has just been a gunslinger, who has had big numbers, also is something to monitor, and they've put up a lot of points this season. So that's going to be a struggle for a defense that has struggled. We know that Packers defense has played better as of late. When I say as better as of late, it was against the Bears and the Vikings with Jaren Hall and Nick Mullins. So I don't know. I'm skeptical is the point, and I'm really hoping the Packers can take care of business here in this one and move on in the playoffs. We do not know the time yet. Okay, so it's gonna be the Cowboys are involved, so it's gonna be some sort of prime time. I honestly, where my head went right away was I think they could be the Monday night game. I still think they could be Central Time Zone. It would be the best for both audiences. When I say that, I mean talking about the East Coast and the West Coast, right? If you have the West Coast game, I mean that's like the other one. I'm thinking it's gonna be West or Central Time, because if it's East or East Coast, I think it's gonna be unlikely you get a good draw in terms of you want to get those West Coast viewers too. And I don't know. I just think with the time zones, it's gonna be interesting, especially like like having a West Coast game, and it goes both ways, right? If you had a West Coast game, I mean more about this. If you have the West Coast game, and let's say right, you have East Coast viewers, that's going to be a tough draw. So monitoring that situation too. I know San Francisco's not playing this round, so we don't have to worry about that. But like the Rams, for example, like what time they play is going to be interesting, as they are going to be playing the Lions. That game's going to be in Detroit, so that's not, you don't really have to worry about that venue situation, at least in the NFC side. So actually, most of the teams are from the Central or East, so that's actually a good thing in terms of scheduling too. But I do think Packers Monday night could be a possibility. I also think the Lions Rams game is going to be one of note, especially with Stafford returning. Um, I think the Buccaneers Eagles unfortunately will be moved, or Buccaneers Eagle, like those 4 and 5 games, like they're good in terms of, right, the Eagles, people are going to watch the Eagles, but like the Texans and Browns, that playoff game is going to be probably one of the Saturday ones is my guess. Not to speculate when, as we'll know this tonight. So just why I'm talking about right now, where I think Packers are going to play. I think it's going to be a Monday night or a Sunday game is what we'll be looking at. But I hope the Packers can come through, right? The Packers, where they can beat teams, is especially with, we know that they have the inexperience on offense and a little on defense, right? Being the youngest team ever to make the playoffs. But where they really stand out is just the versatility of a lot of guys, right? Jaden Reed is the top guy in terms of versatility, or should I even say Aaron Jones is, after another big 100 plus rushing yard game. But I'm talking about for the receivers, right? There's a lot of guys who can beat you. Dobbs almost had that touchdown today. Wicks had 2 touchdowns. Different guy each week. Bo Melton led the team in receiving last week. Things like that. Malik Heath can step up in a game. Tucker Kraft, Musgrave, just a lot of guys who Matt LaFleur can use to win some games, and that's where this Packers team is going to come through. And they also need to win in terms of turnovers too. They need to force turnovers. They need to keep gaining sacks. Again, having 5 today was a huge boost for that defense and really helped out the offense in a game where only 17 points were scored. So that's what we're looking at. And let's go over to the Bucks here. Go Pack Go. But going over Milwaukee, this was the worst week of the season for the Bucks. This was not a good week to watch Bucks basketball. Uh, we talked about I was like looking forward to that New Year's Day matchup for Indiana and Milwaukee, and they lost not just that game, but they lost the Wednesday matchup against them as well. They lose them both. They finished 1-4 on the year against Indiana. Disgusting performance by Milwaukee. Not Giannis though. Logged a triple double Monday, 26, 11, and 8 on Wednesday. Puts up 44 and 14 on Thursday, and then puts up 48 and 17 on Saturday. The Bucks go 1-3 in that stretch. Look, it's extremely frustrating at the end of the day. That San Antonio game, like they're in a slump when that San Antonio game was close. That was disgusting. San Antonio 5-29 coming into that or after that game, and they let Devin Vassell shoot 30 for 34 points, 14 of 21. They allowed them to shoot 48% from the field. This Bucks defense has been brutal. Wembanyama had himself a day. That was impressive to see. And he just had some really cool dunks, some cool plays, blocked Giannis. It was a fun game. No denying that, but Lillard probably played his best on Thursday this week. Lillard had a bad week. There's no denying that either. But yeah, Wembanyama had 27 points, 9 rebounds, 5 blocks. It was fun. It was good game to watch if you're a basketball fan. Bad if you're a Bucks fan in terms of although you won, it was way too close. Is how I felt. This game was, I think, the icing on the cake for most frustrating. They were down 20 at half. They ended up only losing by 4. Okay, that's cute, but it was disgusting. Lillard was 5 for 16 from the field, 1 for 8 from 3. He's not making it from 3-point range this year. It's been tough to see. And I'm still banking on him coming around. He's gonna turn around, but it's just been he's lost his stride in terms of just threes. A lot of it being more. He's not creating a shot as much too, especially when you're with Giannis and Chris and guys who can get you open. Um, but it's been rough go around for Lillard shooting the basketball so far, and he's had 18 points, 8 assists here in this one. And Giannis again had that big. It was 16 of 25 from the field. He's been extremely efficient too, which has been really good to see. But this Bucks team's also missing depth. We talked about Jay Crowder being a huge problem, missing Jay Crowder, and because of the guys on the bench who got to come in. Campaign, unfortunately, shouldn't be coming into games. I feel for this Bucks squad right now. And then Andre Jackson's getting 12 minutes, which he's done fine. Just feels like he's getting pushed into a spot maybe he's not ready for. Pat, Marjan, and Bobby are like the 3 on the bench who you can count on, I feel. And the other guys are just right now, it's like you can't count on any offensive output from anyone else. And you need at least 9-10 guys for a regular season to have some sort of like that works in the playoffs. In a 7-game series. Okay, yeah. But not for a full 82 game season. That's where the Bucks are missing right now. And Jay Crowder's the guy they need back. Matisse Thybulle is someone who I think the Bucks could go out and acquire, which would be great. PJ Tucker is another one who they've talked about. They need a guy like that. They need a savvy vet who can add something to the defensive end on this bench unit, but then also contribute, whether it's 3-point shooting or some way offensively. Going on Houston's side, like how do they get beaten this one? And it was you allow your opponent to shoot 38% from 3 with 34 attempts. Not a good go around. Also, they're 27 to 32 from the line. The Bucks were 29-42 from the line. That's also gonna lose you some things. You lose the turnover battle. That's something I like to look at too. You lose it, you give up, or you have 11 turnovers and you only force 10. That's not gonna be good. And then assists are the other good one too. Like it's crazy how if you look at assists and turnovers, you 9 times out of 10 you're gonna be able to tell who the winner was. Like even things like that. Like that, okay, an assist, I get, if you have more assists, like you probably scored more points because, right, just the ability to have that, but also turnovers, like, okay, like you get the idea, like a lot of it could be in terms of transition, getting easy buckets and such, but those two stats just can lead to a lot of like correlation into like winning games or not, and in this case, the Bucks come up short on both those and they lose it by 4, so Although they outscore them by 12 in the fourth, and they had again some sort of momentum, but too late, too little, too late, and Bucks go to 1-3 on the week. Going on what we're looking at this week, and I'll get into the Bucks standings here. They got 4 games this week again. I go from Sunday to Sunday essentially. So it's Utah, Boston, Golden State, Sacramento, all 4 at home. Love to see that, and we got some fun ones coming up. So I'm looking forward to. Okay, tomorrow night they play the Utah Jazz at home. They're 11.5 point favorites in that one. Bucks better win that one. That's a must win. You got to win that. Okay, you get to Thursday. 6:30 p.m. on TNT against the Boston Celtics. You play that one. I'm looking forward to that one, of course, as well. I wanted to try to go to a Thursday or Saturday game. You'll hear the Saturday opponent, Golden State. I think both those would be fun games to go to, but might not be able to make it either of those. I'll be watching though. Don't worry. But looking at all 4 of these games against Utah, Boston, Golden State, and then also Sacramento, the Kings, Sunday at 6 p.m. So a Sunday night game. Hopefully they move that around for when the Packers play. I think they will. But we got 4 games this week. Tough schedule. 3 playoff teams. 1 not so much in the Jazz. You hope for a 3-1 week. That's kind of what I have the Bucks going right now. I'm debating. Look, and this might seem interesting why I have it like this, but I think the Bucks beat for sure Utah and Golden State. I do have them right now beating Boston. Boston's been also dealing with some depth issues, and Bucks got them at home this time. I think they take this one over the Celtics. And then I'm worried about this back to back coming up because they've had to play a lot as of late, it feels, and they've also struggled again with that depth that I've talked about. I'm concerned about that game against Sacramento. They have good guard output in terms of scoring. They're explosive offense. They can make a lot of threes. That game concerns me, and I do think the Bucks might lose that one here on next Sunday. So I got them going 3-1 is what we're looking at, and overall, just looking forward to this week in Bucks basketball. Just gotta get past this last week. It was a disgusting finish, and going then through NBA standings, what Bucks are looking at for the playoffs. Fortunately, the 76ers have slumped as of late too. They're 5-5 in their last 10. And what that means is Bucks remain in the 2 spot. They are now 3.5 back of Boston Celtics, who are still 17-0 at home. Are they the only undefeated home team left? I believe they are. But they are. My point is it's going to be tough playing them, but they're again 11-7 on the road. So like to see them. And again, Milwaukee 16-3 at home. So hopefully they can defend home court and pick up some games here because they're a game and a half up of Philly so they remain in the 2 spot. They're up game and a half over Philly. They're up 4 games over Cleveland and New York. And then of course Indiana ends up losing after the Bucks plays them too. So we see that they're 4.5 over Indiana, in case anyone was asking. So that's what we're looking at for the Bucks team. They're going to be a top 3 spot in the Eastern Conference, I think, like barring a collapse of some sort. They remain 4 games up over Cleveland, losing out with having some games left against Detroit. They'll take care of. And again, they lost to Houston on the road. I mean, Houston's 18-16 right now. Houston's not a bad team. They have a better record than the Warriors and Lakers each. So that's kind of what we're looking at. And I'm looking forward again to the Bucks, rebounding after a terrible past week. Minnesota is 25-9 right now over in the West. Oklahoma City's 23-11. Minnesota's been crazy good this year. One of the best teams in the NBA. And it's Boston and Minnesota are the top 2 teams for sure. And then the Bucks are like right behind those 2, I feel. And I hope it remains that. But otherwise, that's the NBA talk here on the show. And that's all I got here to round out this episode. And look, it was an exciting week for especially the Packers. That was just great to see. Not a lot of Brewers stuff coming in. They've made a little bit of a move here and there. Just waiting until we get more info and wait until the year starts up. We got like a month now, like a little over a month until pitchers and catchers start reporting, and we're going to get back into it mid-February or so. Looking forward again to that, and good week of sports here. That's gonna wrap it up here. Episode 148 at Drew Sports Crew on all social media platforms, and yeah, wrap it up here. Myself, Drew Skyberg, here on this Sunday night. Thank you all for listening to yet another episode of Drew Sports Crew, the perfect podcast for you.